The Neil Prendeville Show. Weekdays from 9 a.m. 104 to 106. Red FM.
Right to be. Lines open on 1-850-104-106. Gerard Banks, good morning.
Good morning to you, Neil.
What an amazing email. What an amazing night you had. You called it surreal. As in, you were part of it, you were experiencing it, but you didn't believe it was real.
That's exactly it. And even looking back now, it's still even hard for my mind to accept that it happened, you know?
Right. What time was this? Where were you coming from? And more importantly, what was the address? Because there's conflicting reports. Some are saying Pouladuff, others are saying Greenmount. Is it one and the same?
Right. It was on Pouladuff Road, but it's called St. Patrick's Terrace. It would be more or less across from the Loch Community Centre. Okay,
so a terrace of houses, and you were walking past. What time? What time was this?
We were walking past roughly, let's say, 2:45.
Okay.
We were roughly about 2:45, 3 o'clock is when we were walking past. And
this was Monday night into Tuesday morning?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So basically, it is a shocking story, but I think it's a story that needs to be told to actually prevent other people from getting into this situation, you know?
I'm listening.
Right. So basically, we were walking past and we heard crazy noise coming from a house, and it was not your average shouting and screaming. So we looked in the window to see what was going on, and it was crazy. The bedroom was covered in blood. You had curtains, floor. It was destroyed everywhere. So we started shouting in the window to see, is everything okay? Is there anyone in need of help? What's going on?
Was it you and another buddy, the two of you, is it?
It was the two of us, yeah. So basically, a guy came to the window, and you could see that he was on drugs and off his head as well, you know. But he wasn't as bad as the rest of them. But at least he had the cop on to leave us in and have a look, you know.
Okay, he opened the front door.
And when he opened the front door, I think that's when the reality hit home, you know. When they went in the front door, it was very much like something you see out of CSI. The whole place was covered in blood, and all we could hear is shouting and screaming. So when we went into the front room, the first thing we realised is there was a guy standing there, naked and covered in blood. His head looked very bad, as if he got a smack in the head, and that's when it got a bit that's when the surrealness happened. There was a girl dancing on the couch who was naked, and the same thing, she was covered in blood, but they didn't know what they were doing. They were completely out of it. They didn't know they were covered in blood. They didn't know that they were hurt. They didn't know that there was a guy on the ground who looked like he was in cardiac arrest.
How did you ascertain that he was in cardiac arrest? Describe that.
Right. He was on the floor, breathing problems. So the first thing we noticed that his body was kind of jittering and shaking, as if like he was having heart problems. He was having breathing problems. So that's what we noticed first. Later on, the paramedics kind of let us know kind of what happened a bit more.
Right.
But he was in a very bad way. So when we got into the room, the same thing. The whole house was smashed up. There was blood everywhere. It's hard to describe the levels of blood unless you were actually in there. The walls, everything was destroyed. So the first thing my friend done was ran to look after the guy who was on the ground, because it looked like he was going to stop breathing any moment soon. So he was just trying to clear the pathways of breathing and stuff. So I started controlling the room then and just calming everyone down to keep my friend safe, but also to try to calm these people down, because the guy who was there, who was naked, he was even jumping around the place. There was a bike on the ground, and he was cutting himself, and he didn't even realise it.
Oh, my God. Now, did you get a count as to how many people were in the room at this stage?
At this stage, there was me, my friend, there was the guy who left us in, there was the guy on the ground who was struggling to breathe, and there was the girl and the boy who were naked.
4 of them.
There was 4 of them. But the reality is these weren't actually bad people. It was just that it was like as if the drug was after taking over, and they had no idea of what they were doing.
They were beyond pain or feeling the sensation of pain.
Oh, Oh, that was the most shocking thing, and that was the scariest thing. They didn't feel anything. They didn't know what they were doing. They were dancing, and it was like as if the party was great, and they were having a great time, even though your man was on the ground, and there was blood everywhere.
Dancing naked man and a sharp bike. I can imagine the self-inflicted injuries then.
Oh, crazy. And even his face was deeply injured,
So there was cuts to the head, cuts to all of the body, and was the girl cut up as well?
She was covered in blood, but I didn't know if it was her blood or someone else's blood. There was such large quantities of blood there that you couldn't tell who was coming from or who, but everyone was just covered in blood,
Okay, so it's impossible to calm people down like that because they're on a trip. So what did you do next?
Basically, yeah, that's exactly it. It's basically you can't really calm them down, but you can only try prevent them from hurting themselves any bit more,
Did you try and do that?
That's what I was just kind of keeping them from damaging themselves any bit more,
Get the bike out of the way and stuff.
I didn't. I just got him out of the way of the bike,
Yeah, okay. Did you make a phone call?
I didn't make a phone call. I didn't make a phone call. It was actually the neighbour who actually rang the Gardaí.
So a neighbour came in at that stage, was it?
No. There was just lots of shouting, screaming, and the neighbour heard that and rang the Gardaí.
Right.
Let's say within about 10 minutes of me being in the house, then the Gardaí came to the door, and I was the guy who left in the Gardaí then.
Okay, so talk us through that part then.
Right, so when I opened the door to the Gardaí, first of all, the Gardaí seen me, and then they seen the levels of blood and people a guy behind me as well, naked, covered in blood, and you could even see that they were in shock themselves as well, So that was it. We just kind of got them to come in and as quick as they could because they were in a bit of shock themselves. Yeah.
Okay, were they accompanied by paramedics? Did ambulances?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, there was a lot of paramedics as well. And in fairness, fair play to the Gardaí and the paramedics because everyone it was so surreal. Everyone was in a kind of heightened state of shock anyway,
Right.
So fair play to everyone involved.
Okay, did you observe the Gardaí and paramedics in action?
As soon as the Gardaí and paramedics got in, I kind of got outside the room because I had to try explain to other Gardaí outside what I was after coming across,
Right.
And what was going on.
So the Gardaí and the paramedics then went in. Paramedics dealt with the guy in cardiac arrest, I guess, straight away.
Yeah, look, we didn't know if he was going to survive or not at one point. We thought at one point that he was gone, so we were all delighted that he was in a stable state when he was leaving, That was a big thing.
Yeah.
But I guess, like, the main thing that I'm trying to kind of get across is, like, I've never seen people out of not themselves so much, So just, like, whatever this 2CP drug is, like, I've seen the damaging effects of it and how it can take over people. So I definitely think we need to get the message out there to tell people to keep far away from this,
What age do you think these young people were?
I was told that the girl was about 18, so I'd say they were young, early 20s, the rest of them.
Early 18 to early 20s. And this would have been a rental property for perhaps students, do you think?
I think so, but I wouldn't be too sure. But they look like students,
Yeah, this story first broke on TV3 News yesterday lunchtime with Paul Byrne. There's quite a lot of media interest in it, and lots of the different papers are talking about the actual substance they took themselves. We're going to say 2CP, although some call it by different names. But what we do know about this is that it's an online drug. It's a pharma drug that's made in a lab. You can buy it on the internet. So they call it a synthetic drug, a designer drug. You can take it in different ways. It either comes in powder form or tiny pills. You can smoke it or snort it if it's in the powder form, but normally it's pill form and you swallow it. Now, at low doses, at very low doses, it's similar to ecstasy. But by what you're describing, these people went to town on this drug and it takes on the same effect as LSD. Now, LSD is a major hallucinogen drug where you do go off on a trip, and some people suffer irreversible brain damage from it. It can, of course, kill you. It also drives your heart rate and your blood pressure wild. Yeah?
Yeah.
And can induce heart attack. And that's what you were seeing that night.
Yeah. It was, these people were not themselves, you know, so I wouldn't be blaming the people. I would definitely be blaming the drug. I've never seen that level of, let's say, I don't know, dementia, and just, they didn't have any feeling, you know. They could have done anything and they wouldn't have even known, really, you know.
So 4 of them are in hospital, 1 of them critical.
Yeah.
One of them apparently. Did you observe anything outside on the pavement when they were trying to get these young people out?
Yeah, there was a guy, all right, and he was just, to be honest, he was out of it. He wasn't himself, so he was being a bit resistant. But I think something like that anyway happens when you take drugs like this, you know. He wouldn't be aware of what he was doing. Oh, not a bit. And if he's listening in as well, like, you know, I don't blame him. I do blame the drug, you know, and I definitely, if he would, I think we need to start a bit of a movement to get people aware of the serious dangers of this drug, you know. You said that some of the behaviour was almost demonic, that some of the screams coming out of one of the guys on the footpath outside were like screams you wouldn't hear from a wild animal, that at one stage he was trying to eat the pavement. Did you say that he was trying to eat the concrete? Definitely not. And
okay. Well, another witness that must have been on the scene, because he said he sounded like an animal caught in a trap. The noises out of him were not human. He was letting screams and roars out of him that I can only describe as demonic. At one point, he was literally trying to eat the concrete on the road with his teeth and was banging his whole body furiously off the ground.
Well, he was banging his body and he was shouting and roaring, and but he just wasn't himself.
No, not himself at all.
Not at all.
Yeah, it's a tough one to come across, but you are right. You know, there's nothing glamorous about these drugs. Absolutely.
There's not. And the story is shocking, but it needs to be told. If even this story kind of prevents another few people from getting into this situation, then that needs to happen. But after what I've seen, I never want to experience that again, to be honest, you know. Well, I hope I don't anyway.
Well, your intervention was heroic. You know, you were brave enough and sensible enough to go in and take control of the situation. Now, I know that the neighbour called the guards and called the paramedics, and that was a great thing as well. But you probably saved at least one life.
Well, yes, some people are saying that, but I think I was just happy to be there and to be able to help these people, really, to be honest. But I think, fair enough, we might say that we might have saved a life in the house, but hopefully we could save a lot more people's lives by getting the message out there about the damaging effects of these drugs, you know. That's the way I would see it anyway. Yeah,
I gotcha.
You know?
Okay, all right.
But yeah, it is a shocking story, but look, people need to become aware of this 2CP drug, you know, and like, I just people to get the word out, like, and
yeah. Describe some of the things that it can do. I mean, it can also lead to organ failure, you know, not necessarily your heart, your kidneys will shut down, your liver will shut down, you'll have multiple organ failure, and you'll die. But this is just one of hundreds of these psychedelic drugs that are made overseas, and it's impossible. Like, it will take weeks now before, you know, a hospital would be able to actually find out what the ingredients of this tablet or powder was. Because they're constantly changing, you see.
Yeah, and even to be honest, the paramedics and Gardaí, we all had to look up to even find what this drug was, because not many people know about it, apparently, like, you know.
Yeah.
But so that's what I mean. Like, I'm hoping to just create an awareness.
Did you make a statement to the Gardaí? Were you asked to call to Toga or anything like that?
I made a statement, all right, yeah, because I was talking to the Gardaí outside, but even the Gardaí themselves, they were shocked, you know. But yeah, I made a statement, and I just hope that everyone involved is going to be okay, you know.
Good man. Well, Gerard, I want to thank you for taking the call. I really do appreciate your time and your effort, and indeed your intervention. Many people would say it was a brave thing to do, because I'm not sure that everybody would, I think maybe people would walk by a house party where they were screaming. They wouldn't want to get involved. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So well done for that. Appreciate you taking the call.
Yeah, thanks for helping to get the message out anyway, you know.
Yeah, no, you still sound as if you're in a state of shock. I can understand.
I am, to be honest. I'm a bit better than yesterday, but yeah, it's hard to even accept that these things happen, you know, and I suppose if we can even prevent it from happening anywhere else, then we're doing well, you know.
Okay, good job. Well done. Thanks, Gerard.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Thanks for taking the call. Gerard Banks, who entered the house on Pouladuff on Monday night into Tuesday morning. This is a problem. The buying of drugs online is a big, big problem. They literally can come in from all quarters of the world in the post. And that's it. It's impossible to police anymore. They're cheap as chips. They're chemicals that are, put together in a cocktail form in a laboratory, and they're sold online. And of course, students, some of them, not all of them, believe that it is a rite of passage to experiment with drugs like that. And I suppose there's an argument to be made to have a serious look at drug legislation in Ireland, because at this stage, nobody seems to know what's on the market. Before, of course, it was stuff that you bought off guys in nightclubs or down alleyways, or you made a phone call and picked them up or whatever. But now, of course, it's completely private, and not necessarily the dark web either. A lot of this stuff happens on Google searches, and they're very cheap. You know, it's a big issue.
The Neil Prendeville Show, weekdays from 9 a.m. 104 to 106 Red FM.